Welcome back to another Grand Wine Tour series. I'm really pleased to present Shiraz tonight. However, it's not all Shiraz. We're talking about 2 Shiraz and 1 Syrah, which is the French version of Shiraz. And we have again Joao Beleza, our cellar master, and Andrew Corrigan, our master of wine. They are going to talk in more detail about each of the regions and about what makes Shiraz so fantastic and so popular.
Again, we got 3 very different wines here. The Shiraz from France. Of course, I believe you always to compare to the Australian Shiraz is nice and lighter, dry, not as fruity like some of the Australian wines. So that's why I believe these days winemakers in Australia, they're changing the style of the Shiraz. Because in the past they used to make the Shiraz is very big, bulky fruit. So you have a glass, you go boom, to alcohol. So I think they're changing things around. So we put all these comparisons here. We got the Elderton Command from Barossa, the 15, and this one I think is very elegant now. Since I've been in Australia, I tried a lot of different vintage of this wine, and I think from 15 until now, the winemakers they change a lot the style of the wine, and I believe it's very good now. And also the Gioconda from south of Australia, of course, a different style wine again. It's a bit more heavier, it's got more tannins, but also is one of the top in Australia.
For the cold climate, spicy style.
Yes,
yes.
And you can see up there, like I was saying before, you know, the French wines they have cork, and the Aussie wines these days they all screw top. So it's very simple to crack a bottle and put on the glass and drink it. Because I believe some of people in this country, when the wines they're old, with the cork old, so they get trouble to take the cork out. What do you think? And half of them they break and they stay there, and when you put on the glass, you got cork everywhere. And
we need you on hand to get the old cork out with the expertise. You need the special corkscrew.
Yeah, little tools. Yeah. So I call the little fork.
Yeah,
we twist it, and we just bring it out. Yeah. But I think that's what it is. But it's interesting ones, this selection here. So, Mr. Corrigan, have a word, please. Thank you.
Well, so the origin of what we in Australia call Shiraz, as Laura mentioned, but the French know as Syrah. The origin is from the Rhone Valley, the northern Rhone Valley.
That's right.
And the most famous little town and district is Hermitage, which was a name that the Australians for a while there anglicised and used to call it Hermitage, and until international law stopped them doing it, and now Australians can't use that name. But that first wine is in fact from Hermitage, so it's 100% Syrah, that is what we call Shiraz. And importantly here, it's from perhaps the most famous vineyard in Hermitage, which is called La Chapelle, which is where there's a steep hillside. At the top of the hillside there's a chapel built out of the local limestone, with origins back to the ancient Roman times, because the Rhone River was one of those water highways used back in ancient times, and the Rhone goes right up into the heart of France and on into Switzerland. And so this vineyard, La Chapelle, is on these steep slopes down to the river, making this low yield, intense Syrah. One of the big differences from that wine and what you traditionally encounter in Australia is that when that wine's been made, it's been made with large old oak barrels just to allow the softening of the red and not to impart any flavour to the wine. So that means that you're tasting pretty much the Shiraz as the winemaker tries to bring it to you. So when you stick your nose in that and taste it, the Hermitage is it's got a real brambles and a gamey sort of dark cherry aroma. There's quite a lot of flavours going on there, almost rhubarb as well. It's very interesting. And then there's a soft richness with an underlying dryness there, lingers on really nicely. There's a smokiness. I could go on, but there's a lot of complexity on that wine. It's drying out a fair bit now, and so for 2005, it's certainly ready to drink.
Yes.
But it's a lovely example. When you move to the next wine in our lineup, which is the Elderton Command, This is now one of the well-known Australian styles, and of a style of a particular type.
Thank you.
This is a Barossa Valley Shiraz, made a lot with American oak barrels. Now, different philosophy to the Hermitage producer. What's happening here is that the winemaker wants the oak character to come through in the wine, and American oak gives you a sweetness aroma, a little bit of coconutty, vanillan character, and it gives you a really sweet aroma, and on the palate you can taste this softness, sweetness to the wine, and it's a very desirable, very friendly taste. And there's a whole school of Barossa Valley Shiraz that is made in this way. Elderton's perhaps one of the most famous. Certainly, Penfolds and others do that kind of style of wine a lot, and they're very well known for it. And it's a wonderful contrast between those two wines. You know, you see that brambles, smoky prunes, kind of earthy style of the Hermitage with the really sweet vanilla and Australian wine alongside, yet they're both made from the same grape variety. When we move to the third wine, which is the Gioconda, this is now where an Australian winemaker has planted Shiraz in a district trying to be similar to Hermitage. So this is up in the Beechworth district, in the fairly high mountains on the way to the ski fields in Victoria. And you get a cool climate, quite spicy, slightly peppery, sage type aromas. And there's a slight herbal complexity to the wine. On the palate, the wine is quite rich in the mid palate, but there's not so much oak. All the oak on this wine was old oak in the same way as made in a similar style to the Hermitage, where the effect of the oak is background, and what you're tasting is the Shiraz itself. In the case of this wine, the Gioconda winemaker has employed some techniques. They've used whole bunches of grapes, and they fermented with the whole bunches, and you get this quite casserole meaty, dark stock cube aroma complexity on the wine, which is very interesting. It's a very deep, rich, complex. It's the biggest wine of these three, I think. It's a big style.
Is that typical of that region?
Yeah, I think if you make that cold climate style, I think if you do a whole bunch.
It's interesting because I think they're good for Gioconda is well known for Chardonnay, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they
and
do
Pinot.
and Pinot, but they do the Shiraz down there. So, look, I believe also I've been talking to winemakers, and some of the winemakers, when they make their wines, they are very they do a lot of experiments to make the wine. But I believe a simple winemaker, he makes a beautiful wine.
Yeah.
Simple it is.
Yeah.
But also on the French thing, we have another one there is the Côte Rôtie. Also, it's very, very good.
Just to the north of Hermitage. Yeah, oh yes, lovely.
Very, very good wine to drink. Well, actually, we got that in the cellar downstairs. So
yeah, it's good.
If there's anyone like to try one day, just come and see us.
Yeah. Well, Côte Rôtie is interesting because it's very intense Shiraz. In the region there, they put the fresh Shiraz grapes in on top of the Viognier skins where they've pressed the Viognier wine away. And so you get a slight influence of the still wet skins left over from fermentation of the white grape Viognier. And it lowers the pH, it lifts the acidity, and you get a much quicker fermentation, so you get a real estery perfume on the Shiraz. And it's a lovely thing in Côte Rôtie. Côte Rôtie is one of my all-time favourite reds. And in Australia, quite a few producers make Côte Rôtie style, and often they'll disclose on the label, they'll say Shiraz Viognier or maybe Syrah Viognier or something like that, and use the French name for it.
I think it's with a bit Viognier on the Shiraz, I think it's a very good balance and makes a very nice one. Now, also with these ones, it's beautiful to eat some cheese with these ones, of course. But I believe one cheese, it doesn't match any wine, is the blue cheese.
Blue cheese.
Yeah, and when you sometimes when you go out and you ask for cheese, they put the blue, and I think it's overpower any red wine around the world.
I think so. I think blue cheese might go with either Stilton might go with vintage port.
Port, yes. Yeah.
But the other thing, blue cheese maybe with Riesling
or Muscat.
Or Muscat, yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I believe. So
Okay.
also we got a little cheese there, so we guys can.
We have
try
an
a little-
interesting cheese board here, but there's a wash rind and a cheddar, but there is a blue on it, and we
it is
we can
available
smell it
to
from
purchase.
here.
Yeah, it is available to purchase with any wine packs from the club. They will deliver it same day. It is beautiful gourmet cheese and it's delicious. But just don't have the blue with the red.
Cheers.
Enjoy your Shiraz or Syrah.
Shiraz, voilà.
Syrah.
Syrah.